I couldn't bring myself to attend my cousin's wedding. The reason? She was marrying my ex-boyfriend, the same one who had controlled and manipulated me. And now, she was trying to ruin my reputation. But here's the twist, everything backfired on her. Julia, 27, had been dating Louis, 29, for 2 years. I, also 27, had been in a relationship with him for 3. We started dating after he graduated, and I was just beginning my second year of college. For those 3 years, we tried to make it work. But as my 20th birthday came and went, so did our relationship. The truth is, it was a disaster from the start. It was my first adult relationship, and I regret it deeply. On paper, we seemed perfect, but in reality, it was far from it. Louis was insecure, overbearing, and he wouldn't let me do anything on my own. I couldn't go out with my friends, couldn't even talk to my male friends without him spying or accusing me of things. He was always watching, always keeping tabs on me. And whenever I did something he didn't like, he would twist things around, making me believe I was the problem, that it was my fault things weren't working. Desperate to keep him around, I bent over backward, doing everything he wanted. But it was never enough. Eventually, he ended things, telling me it wasn't working out. And then, he blocked me. Just like that, he cut me off completely. I tried reaching out, but nothing. He was gone. Within 2 months, I heard through the grapevine that he was already with someone new, a friend of mine, no less. It felt like a slap in the face. I tried to move on, and I did. I found someone else, someone who treated me better. But then, when I turned 25, Louis unblocked me. He texted me to wish me a happy birthday. I didn't respond. It was strange to hear from him after everything, especially since I was with someone else now. But he didn't stop. He kept texting, and when I didn't reply, he kept pushing. Eventually, I had to block him again. A few months later, Julia invited me to her house. I had no idea what to expect. When I got there, she told me she had someone she wanted me to meet. It was Louis. I was stunned. Apparently, he had reached out to me on my birthday to make things right before this. They had met at work and were now serious about each other. Julia and I had been close since childhood, so I couldn't understand how she, of all people, could be with someone who had hurt me so much. She knew exactly how toxic he was, how damaged I was from that relationship. She knew everything. Yet here she was, with him. It shook me to my core. Julia asked me to give them a chance, but how could I? I wanted her to be happy, but Louis? He was the one who had ruined my first real relationship. He had shattered what could have been a beautiful experience for me. I couldn't just brush that off. I tried to remain respectful. I told her that I couldn't process the fact that she was with him. I couldn't be around him, not after everything. Julia was upset, tried to talk to me several times afterward, but I just couldn't. She knew how bad it was, how he had manipulated me, how toxic he was. And now she was with him, claiming he had changed. I didn't believe it. He had hurt me too much. I made the decision to step away from her life. Yes, it was hard. We were cousins and had been best friends. But I had to do it for myself. She could have him in her life, but I had every right to remove him from mine. It was as simple as that. After she told me about her relationship with Louis, I started distancing myself. And for 2 years, we barely spoke. When we crossed paths at family events, we would ignore each other. It was painful, but I was okay with it. She made her choice, and I had made mine. But Julia, she took it personally. Instead of respecting my space, she decided to start spreading lies about me, trying to destroy my reputation. She told people I was the one who had caused the breakup, that I had no morals. Louis and Julia spread rumors, painting me as the bad guy. They said I had flirted with other guys while I was still with Louis, making him jealous and possessive. But it was the other way around. It was Louis who flirted with other women, yet had a problem with me having male friends. It was him, not me. He controlled every aspect of my life, trying to cut me off from anyone and everyone. It was infuriating, but I was busy with my own life. I didn't need to react. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of a response. Besides, I knew no one in the family would believe their lies. I had to laugh at how ridiculous they sounded. I also knew if I wanted to end this, all I had to do was talk to my aunt. She would take care of everything. My aunt, a federal court judge, had a reputation for being strong and fair. One conversation with her, and this whole thing would be over. But I wasn't going to stoop to their level. Julia had her own financial struggles. She had started a jewelry line, but I knew it wasn't going well. I didn't want to burden my aunt with such petty drama. So I decided to let it go. Let them continue their petty rumors. It was amusing at this point. Then, 6 months ago, they got engaged. They set a wedding date, and soon after, my parents received an invitation. But I didn't. Honestly, I wasn't upset. I didn't expect an invite, and I wouldn't have gone if I had been invited. After everything that had happened between Julia, Louis, and me, attending that wedding was out of the question. 3 days ago, the wedding happened, and I didn't even think about it. It was just another day for me, until my phone started blowing up. Texts from the family, everyone buzzing about a speech Louis and Julia had made at the wedding. I was utterly confused, a swirl of emotions churning inside me, when my parents called me up. They said they needed to speak with me urgently, and that's when they finally broke the news. My stomach dropped. Apparently, at the wedding, Julia and Louis had seized the opportunity to make a vicious speech about me, spreading lies and attempting to turn every single family member against me. It was a calculated attack, designed to ruin my reputation, to paint me as some kind of villain. If I hadn't had the ammunition I needed to defend myself, maybe it would have worked. But Julia and Louis were slick, they never even mentioned my name directly. Instead, they referred to a certain ex-girlfriend who wasn't at the wedding. And who else could they possibly mean? There was only one person that fit that description, me. They repeated the same malicious rumors they tried to spread before, that I was a flirt, that I was a gold digger. They accused me of relying on Louis for money, demanding he pay for everything. They claimed I insisted on him taking care of me because I was just a poor college student who couldn't afford anything. That couldn't be further from the truth. I always made sure to split the bill whenever we went out, never once expecting him to foot the entire cost. But the worst accusation of all, by far, was when they said I cheated on him. According to their twisted narrative, that's what ended our relationship. At the wedding, Julia and Louis had proudly declared how glad they were that I wasn't there, how they were rid of me. They didn't want any negative influence hanging around. And to make their point clear, they issued an ultimatum: the family could either invite them to events or me, but not both. If I showed up, they wouldn't. I found out about all of this through my parents, who were just as horrified as I was. I was livid, enraged beyond words. The more I thought about it, the more it ate at me. My parents, who had been there during the wedding, couldn't even stomach what Julia had said and left immediately after her speech. They told me how my aunt had been perplexed by the whole thing, questioning whether any of it could possibly be true. She knew me too well, knew that none of this matched the person she had always known me to be. She was right, of course. I hadn't done any of the things Julia had claimed. Fueled by anger and a desire for the truth to come to light, I set out to gather evidence. It took hours, but I dug through old messages, searching for something, anything, that could prove they were lying. The deeper I scrolled, the more I unearthed. It wasn't long before I found the screenshots I was looking for, messages exchanged between me and my ex around the time we were breaking up. At his worst, he was venomous, calling me toxic and telling me how much he regretted ever being with me. But there was one thing that stood out: there was no mention of any cheating. If I'd actually cheated, I knew he wouldn't have let it go so easily. I scrolled even further back, finding other conversations where he was cruel and nasty, but still no evidence of anything remotely like the accusations Julia and Louis were making. It was all right there in black and white. I didn't even bother explaining or offering a caption. I just posted the screenshots online. Let the words speak for themselves, I thought. And they did. As soon as I shared them, messages started flooding in from friends and family. Everyone who had known me for years, since childhood, was shocked. They couldn't believe the things Julia had said about me. They knew it wasn't in my character. The screenshots were proof enough. I had the support of my family, and with that, I felt invincible. What's more, some people told me they had left the wedding early because of what was said about me. Julia and Louis' attempt to tear me down had backfired spectacularly. The worst part for them? Not even my aunt was on their side anymore. That's when they reached out to me. They called me on the night of the wedding, begging for forgiveness. It was clear they'd realized the gravity of the situation. After reading the screenshots, my aunt had confronted them, expressing how deeply disappointed she was in their actions. She couldn't understand why Julia would go to such lengths to ruin my reputation, all because she couldn't stand that I'd cut her off after she started dating my ex. Things had gone from bad to worse for Julia and Louis. Most of the guests had already left, the atmosphere soured beyond repair. My aunt, disillusioned and hurt, made it clear to Julia that she wouldn't tolerate such dishonesty, not from her own daughter. She told Julia that she wouldn't be a part of her life until she apologized to me. And, without hesitation, she left. Julia tried to convince her otherwise, desperate to keep her support, especially since she was financially dependent on her mother. But it was no use. The calls kept coming. Julia and Louis, knowing that their financial security was at risk, begged me to take down the post. They wanted me to speak to my aunt, to smooth things over. But I was done. I blocked them both. No second chances. They could try all they wanted, but I wasn't going to be manipulated into helping them. Even now, a week later, they haven't stopped trying to reach me. They keep creating new accounts, sending desperate emails, but I've made my decision. I'm not getting involved. I've moved on. As for my aunt, she's an incredible woman, honorable, upright. She reached out the day after the wedding to express her regrets for what had happened, and I told her not to worry. I wasn't going to let Julia's mess come between us. We've always been close, and nothing will change that. I know that if I speak to her, I could help Julia fix things, but part of me feels that Julia should face the consequences of her own actions. She's an adult. She made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. But then again, I'm torn. I don't want to be the person who could help and choose not to. I'm just stuck, unsure of what the right thing to do is. So, here I am, asking for advice. Am I wrong for not speaking to my aunt and trying to convince her to forgive my cousin after everything she did at the wedding? My aunt has made her position clear. She won't resume supporting her daughter unless I forgive her. But to be honest, I don't think I owe her forgiveness. After all, for an entire year, I stayed silent and let them say whatever they wanted about me. I wasn't taking them seriously, but they misinterpreted my silence as a free pass to escalate things. Now, they'll have to face the consequences. And there's another thing that keeps nagging me. Why should she get my aunt's support? She's in her late 20s now. By this age, she should know exactly what she wants in life. I can't fathom anyone still relying on their parents for financial support at this stage. It's not like she's uneducated or incapable, she's just too lazy to stick with a job. I saw it when we were in our early 20s, freshly graduated, and I thought she'd grow out of it, but nothing has changed. So in a way, I feel like I'm doing her a favor by not getting involved. The lack of financial help from my aunt might be the push she needs to get her act together and focus on her career, or whatever it is she decides to pursue. Either way, I've made up my mind. I won't help her. I talked it over with my parents to release some of the guilt that had been weighing on me, and they reassured me that I was completely justified. It was my decision whether or not I wanted to forgive her, and if I didn't feel she deserved it, that was my call. They told me I shouldn't make decisions out of guilt or fear for her future. Besides, my cousin still has a decent job. If they really need money, he can support them. The bottom line? I consulted with my parents and friends, and even you guys, and the consensus is clear. I have no reason to feel guilty. I feel much better now, honestly. So I took down that post. It had served its purpose, and there's no need to leave it up any longer. The whole family already knows what happened, and it's easier to remove it than explain everything to the people who follow me. I don't want to keep that drama on my profile, especially when it's too complicated to explain to others. Now, I'm just focusing on myself. I've gone back to meditating, trying to calm my mind, and dealing with everything in a more peaceful way. I really hope Julia and Louis start taking responsibility for their lives instead of revolving around me, using me as the reason they wake up every day. It's exhausting, and I think it would be better for all of us if they just moved on. A month has passed since the wedding, and guess what? Julia and Louis are back to their old tricks. My aunt still refuses to speak to them because I haven't forgiven them yet. Honestly, I don't need to forgive them because their apology was clearly not genuine. It wasn't about reconciliation, they were just trying to get money out of my aunt. They wanted me to step in, to tell her to speak to them again, but when I didn't respond, they gave up. And now? They've gone back to spreading lies. This time, they've really outdone themselves. Apparently, I'm trying to ruin their relationship with my aunt on purpose because I want all the inheritance for myself. It's laughable. Why would I need to do that? My family is well off. I have a good job, and at this point, I don't even care about inheritance. I'm doing fine on my own. But they keep pushing this ridiculous narrative to anyone who'll listen, talking about it every chance they get. Every time they run into someone from the family in public, which happens often since we all live in the same city, they've got something to say about me. And what's baffling is that people are avoiding them like the plague, yet they still find a way to bring me up. I got fed up last week and finally told my aunt. She said that even if they did apologize again, she wouldn't be in contact with them. She's blocked Julia for good. And now, they're even angrier with me. I know this because they created a fake email to send me an angry message. That's the only way they can get through to me now. They said they were going to make me pay for what I'd done. Ooh, I should be scared, right? Honestly, it's annoying, not terrifying. So, I wrote back and told them that if they tried anything funny, I'd call the cops without hesitation. I've got a security system in place, and I'm not backing down. Let's see if that scares them off. Then, just 4 days ago, I got an email from Julia and Lewis. They told me I'd have to face the consequences of my actions. Remember, I had warned them already about trying anything. Still, they did something so foolish, it's almost unbelievable. Last night, they tried to break into my house. Julia has been here before, so she knows I've got a top-notch security system. The moment they tried to open my door, I was alerted. Why on earth did they think my door would be unlocked at 1 a.m.? I immediately called the police. I had a feeling it was them, but I didn't want to take any chances. They arrived in 15 minutes, and when they caught up with them, the two of them had been trying to flee, not even in a car, just on bikes. They were dressed like burglars, which was pretty hard to miss. When the police questioned them, they tried to claim they weren't breaking in to steal anything, they just wanted to intimidate me. As if admitting that would somehow make them look better. Julia started crying when they put the handcuffs on her, begging me not to press charges, but I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy. They've messed up too many times for me to just let it slide. Lewis looked at me with pure hatred, but I was used to that by now. I went back to sleep after everything settled, even though I had work in the morning. This morning, I told my aunt and my parents about what happened. They already knew because Julia used her one phone call to try and reach my aunt, hoping she could bail her out. But my aunt refused to even go see her. Now, nobody knows what will happen. I'm definitely pressing charges because I want a protective order against them. They're unhinged, and I want nothing more to do with them.